911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Happy New Year, everyone. How are you all? Wow, it's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've seen you guys. Feels like forever. How are you all doing? I hope you all had a very happy New Year's and were able to celebrate with friends and family. Hey, Mindy Harris. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Maria. How are you doing? It's good to see you, my dear. Hey, Joe. How are you? Hey, Cats Gallery. Welcome. Hi, Polygraph. Happy New Year to you as well. Hey, Mary. Happy New Year. Hi, Danger Dave. How are you, my dear? It's good to have you guys here. Oh, Dave, I know. I'm going to talk about that a little bit before we get going tonight. So sad. Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, thank you, Polygraph. Hey, Tech Death. How are you, my dear? Good to see you. Hey, Country Girl. Hey, Daisy. Good to have you here. Hi, Indy Pam. So good to see you. Yeah, I think that was, we're going to talk about that. I think that was intentional. Let's see. Hey, David, how are you? Yeah, I heard that as well, but obviously that's not true. Hey, John, good to see you. I hope you're feeling better, my dear. Happy New Year. Yeah, he's doing fantastic. His channel really is taking off. Hey, Paris, how are you, my dear? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Hi, True Crime Housewife. Oh, thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. Yeah, David, that's a question. That's a question for sure. We could spend a whole month talking about Indiana and law enforcement and their crime solvability rate and a lot of things. Oh, Dave, you're so nice. You're so sweet. I'm so happy to see all of you. I've missed you. Hey, Mrs. Thang, how are you? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Yes, John, we're going to talk about Damar. Yeah, I'm going to talk about it, Indy Pam. You'll understand maybe when I start talking about it. But yeah. Oh, Dave, you are so wonderful. You are so nice. I think football's always been dangerous. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you. Hey, Melissa, how are you? So good to see you. It's so nice to see everybody. It seems like it's been forever, and I know it hasn't. It just seems like it. But the holidays are behind us. We're starting a whole new year, and it's it's really I think we're going to have a lot happen this year, especially in true crime. We have a lot of trials coming up on cases. There's going to be a lot to cover. And I talked to Maria today about some of my mindset on what I'm thinking for my channel as far as we go forward and as a community. And I may be putting out a couple of not really questionnaires, but I'm going to try to get some opinions from you guys on some things that you would like to see me cover, and see what direction we go with the channel. As everybody knows, I started out my YouTube channel covering Delphi, and Delphi has been hot and heavy. And now with Richard Allen's arrest, things have really quieted down. And I don't want to stop talking about Delphi for sure. In fact, I have a really, really good show coming up this Thursday night. I've got Steve and Skip are going to be here with me, and we're going to talk Delphi. So make sure you guys share that video out there and let everybody know. And yes, most definitely, Daisy, I will be covering the the Flora case much more this year. But yeah, I'm just looking to venture out, start covering some other things, and see where that goes. So that's my plan at this point. I may actually only go live a couple times a week, and then the other time put out a video. So I'm really starting to hone in on how that works, because I know a lot of people just like to watch the videos, and a lot of people don't have time to do the live stream and to watch the live stream. So just some things I've been thinking about. Evansdale for sure is going to be on my radar for this year. So don't worry. Those cases will definitely be on the agenda. So let's get into it. The first thing that I want to talk about tonight is some of you have already mentioned it. Let's hang on a second. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Some of you guys have already talked about Damar, Hamlin. But for those of you who don't know or haven't heard, last night during the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals football game on Monday Night Football, late in the first quarter, there was a really I'm going to say interesting, because I didn't find the hit to be horrific like I've seen other hits be watching football, but there was a hit between Damar and Damar Hamlin, who's a 24-year-old special teams player for the Bills. And he had a hit with another player, and he stood up after the hit and went to adjust his face mask and his helmet, and then proceeded to fall backwards, completely stiff, and hit the ground. And people started running and coming, and sadly, he had suffered a cardiac arrest right then and there on the field. And they began to work on him on the field. And of course, the doctors, were right there, and the team was all around him. And I think everybody was kind of holding their breath, because any of us who watch football or have watched football all know that they're highly trained for this sort of accidents. They train for them all the time, and how their response is going to be. And we were waiting to see that thumbs up that a lot of players give us, even those that have to be taken off the field on a cart. They absolutely will give a thumbs up. Well, that never came. And when I went back and I looked, just from my medical training, when I went back and I looked at the video of the hit, he took a direct hit of a shoulder into the center of his chest. And I think that was what caused his cardiac arrest. I think that was enough blunt force trauma to his chest in the right spot that it caused his heart to just go nuts. And when that happened, it threw him into a myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack basically. But he just had a cardiac arrest, and his heart just stopped. And they were able, they have the ability, obviously, to shock him right there on the field. and they were able to restore his heartbeat on the field. And from what I heard, and I'm not sure because I've been trying to get confirmation of this all day long, whether or not they got him back to breathing in the ambulance, but it sounds like they didn't. But I've heard both. I've heard people say that he was given oxygen or whatever in the ambulance, but I think that they were bagging him and breathing for him. And when he got to the hospital, to the emergency room, they intubated him. And they put him on a respirator and put him into an induced comatose state so that his body can begin to heal. They always do that when they have severe traumatic injury like this to the body. They want to give the body, they want to take away as much work that the body has to do on its own so that they can, try to give their body a chance to recover and to heal. My concern for him right now is that he was down quite a while. And I don't know how long that was for brain function. So that's where this is going to come into play. It sounds like all of his numbers look good today. They're saying that he's stable and everything has really come back to normal, but he is not breathing on his own. So that concerns me. And he is in intensive care and critical condition. And so there's a lot of things that happen when your body takes this kind of a trauma. It doesn't surprise me at all. When the heart would stop, that would cause the fluid on his lungs, Dave, because our heart pumps and keeps that fluid from building up in our lungs. So when you stop having that flow, then that's where the fluid's going to come from. And we just don't know what other kinds of injuries that he suffered. But he was transferred to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center for further testing and treatment. And he is sedated and he's in critical condition. So I just wanted everybody to know that, it's real out there. We watch these games as fans and he's 24 years old. He's only been in the league a year and his whole life was ahead of him. And it is a game, but I think last night what we witnessed when we watched it was more than a game. I think it became real to everyone that was a human life on the ground who had died and they were working to save his life. Because cardiac arrest, you don't give CPR to anyone who's alive, who has a heartbeat. CPR is only given when you do not have a heartbeat. So he was in grave shape on that football field. And when you watch the game replay and you see of the whole thing, the aftermath, when you see both of the teams standing around him, it's just incredible. They were crying. They were so emotional, and they decided to suspend the game. The game is not been rescheduled. I do not know what's going to happen with that, but at this point, that's not what's important. What's important is this young man's life, and I agree with everyone and what everybody said about football. It is the most dangerous of all dangerous sports out there. I know that they say they've tried to help curb injuries, but I don't see that. I think the traumatic brain injuries that these players end up with from all of the concussions and the hard hits that they take are ridiculous. And I really think that we as spectators need to reevaluate why we watch these games, and watch these people hurt each other this way. I mean, I get that it's fun to watch and people like the game and the sport, but man, it's just, it's crazy. I am so glad that my grandsons did not play football. Their mother decided early on when they were little tiny boys that they would never go on a football field and play football. And I'm really happy about that because it is so dangerous. And those concussions that they get is crazy. And you've got little boys out there playing it now and they're tackling. It's just ridiculous. I don't understand why people think that it's okay for little kids to play this sport. So anyway, I just wanted to say that and send my prayers out to Damar and his family, and we're pulling for you. And I think that the fact that I think it says a lot that his charity, which is a toys campaign for the underprivileged, he raised over $3 million in just a few short hours last night. And it goes to show you how the Buffalo Bills, especially because they're known for doing that, for raising money for injured players, their injured players and others. The team is very well known for that. So I thought that said a lot about people and how they are responding to this in a positive way. So anyway, he was not a quarterback, Melissa. He was a special team. He was on the special teams. I think he was a defense. Okay, yeah, he was a defensive back. When he was on the field, I think he was playing as a safety. Yeah. So, and he's not a big guy. I mean, when you look at him, he's not a big guy, but I don't really think it really matters much. Honestly, as John said, that, they're getting big, football players are getting bigger and bigger. And it's just, yeah, right, Daisy. Same thing. I saw like around midnight, it was at 867,000. And when I woke up this morning, it was 3 million. So yeah. So anyway, I did want to mention him and mention that because that's something that's never been seen before. And I thought we should talk about it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about before we jump into talking about Idaho, I don't know if you guys know or not, but Missouri is set to execute Amber McLaughlin tomorrow, or today, I guess. I'm sorry. Yeah, today. She is the first openly transgender death row inmate. And I just wanted to give a little background on what's happening. Unless they get a stay of execution from the Missouri governor, Mike Parsons, Missouri will begin the new year by conducting the first ever execution of an openly transgendered person in the United States when it puts Amber McLaughlin to death on Tuesday, January 3rd. McLaughlin, 49 years old, is a transgender woman who has been held at a men's prison in protective custody at Potosi Correctional Center in Mineral Point, Missouri. And she transitioned as an inmate in 2018 after a ruling in a separate case allowed all inmates to have access to hormone therapy. McLaughlin was convicted of the rape and stabbing murder of 45-year-old Beverly Gunther in 2003. And at the time, and in all court proceedings until 2018, McLaughlin went by the name Scott McLaughlin, the name that appears on court documents. Gunther was McLaughlin's former girlfriend. McLaughlin's lawyers argue in her petition for clemency that she's never had a chance. The 27-page petition details her life, which was pervaded by abuse and neglect, beginning with fetal alcohol syndrome, abusive parents and foster parents, and neglectful caretakers at every stage of her life. The petition detailed the disturbing abuse, which included withholding food, multiple head injuries, and punishment for McLaughlin when she refused to drown a litter of kittens. Attorneys say McLaughlin has a borderline intellectual disability and has been diagnosed with brain damage. McLaughlin also argues through counsel that her case was a procedural anomaly that does not support a death sentence. Though most death penalty states require a unanimous jury vote to impose the death penalty, Missouri allows a judge to independently impose it if a jury finds itself deadlocked on sentencing. McLaughlin's case ended with a hung jury on sentencing after counsel introduced some of the evidence of the defendant's extensive childhood trauma. However, McLaughlin's attorneys say their client's lawyer should have introduced more mitigating evidence during the sentencing phase, but failed to do so. And in 2016, a federal district court agreed with that assessment and overturned McLaughlin's death sentence. Later, however, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit reversed that ruling and reinstated McLaughlin's death sentence. McLaughlin's appeal was rejected by the U.S. Supreme Court, and McLaughlin's lawyers say in their clemency petition that their client's death sentence rests on the thinnest of margins because it was imposed not by a jury, but by a trial judge. They also argue that McLaughlin has expressed genuine remorse consistently and almost immediately after the tragedy happened. Congresswoman Cori Bush and Congressman Emanuel Cleaver submitted letters to support McLaughlin's clemency and urging Parson to halt the execution. If McLaughlin is executed today, it will become the state's third execution in 9 months, which represents a marked increase from recent years. In an email to Law and Crime on Monday, McLaughlin's counsel, Larry Kump, called his client's scheduled execution an ideal case for clemency. The jury from the community where this occurred refused the opportunity to impose death. They rejected it. So the conscience of the community where this occurred did not think it was a death case. Thus, removing the death sentence conforms with the sentiment of the jury. When you compound that with the fatal error of promising the jury mental health evidence and then breaking that promise, the jury would have returned a life verdict. The mental health evidence explained why this horrible tragedy occurred. It is wrong when anyone is executed. I hope this verse does not occur. Amber's courage in embracing who she is, a transgender woman, inspires. And that was from her attorney and what they wrote to the judge of Missouri. So I just wanted you guys to know that that was happening. I saw that tonight when I was getting ready for the show, and I thought that that was important to bring up. It sounds like there's a good case there possibly for clemency in this case. And it would be sad if that was not granted. So let's talk about what happened over the weekend with Idaho. I think we've all been, talking and we've obviously been following the Idaho murder case from the University of Idaho. And since it happened on November the 13th, I've not done actual shows on it. I've just mentioned it in shows. I think I told you guys why I hadn't done shows on it. And I really felt that there was so many people doing shows on this, and a lot of what I was hearing was not factual. It was just a lot of supposition and a lot of throwing people under the bus. I mean, people pulling people's names out of wherever and accusing them basically of the murder of these 4 people. And you guys know how I feel about that. And so I didn't want to jump on the bandwagon in this case for that very reason. So I kind of sat and watched it from the periphery. But I am floored, I have to say, by what has transpired since Friday when they arrested Bryan Kohberger. And I found that I definitely want to follow the case from now on, simply because I would have never in my wildest imagination thought that this guy would have been another person who was in a PhD program who was teaching students about criminology. I'm just absolutely floored by this. The fact that one of his professors happens to be a very famous professor who wrote the biography of BTK. She befriended him, and for 5 years, she talked to him, interviewed him, and interacted with him to write the book about him. And she was teaching Bryan Kohberger. She was one of his professors in Pittsburgh from the college that he graduated from in May with his master's. And just incredible. There's just so much that we have to talk about here. So just bear with me kind of as I go through this. So Bryan Kohberger was arrested on Friday at his parents' home in the Poconos, a little southeast, I believe, of Scranton, Pennsylvania. And he was arrested in the connection with the deaths of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Maddie Mogen, and Kaylee Conclaves. And for those of you, excuse me, I'm sure you've been following the case. I'm sure that you've been watching and you've seen him. It just amazes me how quickly law enforcement got this guy. Excuse me. And as my topic for tonight's live stated, was this a live murder case study going on here in Bryan's mind for his PhD dissertation? Was this something that led him to think that he could commit the perfect murder and get away with it? I think there's a lot to unpack when we start talking about what may have led to this and what may be behind of why he did this. Everything that I've read about him so far, he is very highly intelligent. And even so that, Maria, are you out there? What is the name of the professor that I'm trying to think of? Can you tell me her name, please? For whatever reason, I can't think of it. And I know you gave it to me today. I'm going to see if I can find it in our little chat. Hold on a second. I'm trying to find her name, you guys. I'm sorry. So, the professor who was teaching him, Maria, do you remember what her name is? Can you hear me? Oh, thank you. Dr. Catherine Ramsland. She did an interview talking about Bryan and the fact that in her tenure, since she's been teaching, she has only written 2 letters in reference letters for PhD students to get their doctorate. And Bryan was one of them. So she said that of all the students she's taught over the years, Bryan was exceptional and was way smart. And I think when you listen to the interviews with his students and some of the people that have interacted with him, you can actually see where he, hold on one second, guys. So I think she saw in him, how committed he was to this genre and to getting and to being the best kind of in it. When his students were interviewed, they were saying things like he was a very tough TA, a teacher's assistant. He showed up on campus August 21st, the day before classes began at Washington State University. And on August 22nd, he took up his teaching position. And so he was teaching undergrads criminology. And these kids talk about how he was extremely strict, very tough on them. His grading was extremely tough. And he almost expected them to know things similar to him, even though he's a PhD student. You're obviously, as an undergrad, not going to know anything close to a PhD student. So they didn't like him very much, but they did talk about how his demeanor changed after the murders. And before, he would come to class and he taught in a lecture hall. And for those of you that have never been in college and don't understand, these lecture halls can be very, very big. Just depends on the university and how many students they have. But they're very large. And he would stand in the front of the lecture hall and look down. He didn't look at his students. He kind of just looked down and was kind of just not engaging, I think is what they were trying to say. But after the murders, he became much more animated and was handing out 100s on papers and things to students, which he had not been doing at all before this happened. So it's almost like he became upbeat and maybe a little cocky, kind of, in their minds. So I'm sure it's different for them to look back on it now than when it was occurring as to why is this guy like this? What happened? But if you remember when we've talked about crime in the past, and we've talked about the FBI and how they profile criminals, and especially these types of murderers, they talk about them changing, and for people to look for odd behaviors or odd behavioral kind of odd behaviors that would stand out to you, or something that changed abruptly. And obviously students noted an abrupt change in Bryan. They just didn't know what it was. And as Maria stated, some people said that whenever the Moscow murders were brought up in class and people were discussing them, he would go silent. He would not talk about them. He would not say anything. He was very quiet. So obviously he didn't want to talk about them to them because, he was trying to preserve himself at this point. And it's just eerie to think that your teacher, who's been teaching you for an entire semester, is a mass murderer, quote, serial killer. Because at this point, we don't know if he's killed before. We don't know any of that. We don't know what type of killer he is. And we won't know until he's examined and actually looked at. But so many red flags now that we know. And somebody in the chat mentioned earlier that they were talking about how many people on social media were complaining that the case was going cold and that it was never going to be solved. And I just wanted to scream, because I was like, you're not 6 years out. You're 6 weeks out from when it was committed. How can you possibly say that? I just will never understand how people who follow true crime come up with some of the things that they say. And maybe it's people that don't really follow true crime, but I'm just like, wow, his neighbors say that he was strange. A woman who lived above him said that he kept weird hours. He was up all hours of the night. He would be vacuuming in the middle of the night. He would be running water, taking showers. I mean, just doing all kinds of weird stuff in the middle of the night. And they said that it seemed like he didn't sleep a lot, and he was always looked tired. Now, what also is interesting is on August 21st, he was stopped in Moscow, Idaho at 11:40 p.m. and given a no seat belt violation ticket. And the place where he was stopped is just within moments of the house where the 4 students were killed. And it's like, well, what the heck was he doing there back in August? And he was just arriving in Washington, in Pullman on the 21st. That's when he arrived. So now it has people wondering, was he stalking these girls? Because Xana's father, Xana, has come out and said that his daughter was having trouble with a guy, and she had been complaining about a guy that she was having problems with. And there is also been talk from Kaylee's father, who also said that there was interaction somehow between Bryan and Kaylee. Now, does that mean that they actually had interaction, or is it the fact that he was following them on social media, because it has come out that he was following all three of them on Instagram and social media. So, he may have become, you know, completely infatuated with these three girls in some weird way and wanted them to have a relationship with him. We all know that Xana had a boyfriend and she wasn't going to have anything to do with him. And he also is a vegan, and it's like he takes the veganism to an extreme. And Maria and I were talking about this today because we don't know digital how long he's been following them. I'm assuming that that'll all come out, but we don't know that yet. But he went to a family funeral and actually asked his aunt and uncle to go out and buy new pots and pans to cook for him. And I'm just like, what? Hey, Dave, you be careful out there driving, okay? You be safe. And there are a lot of posts out there. We don't know what posts are real. So be very, very careful until you know for sure that Reddit posts are his and other posts that are being posted are his. I just want you guys to be careful. We cannot say for certain until law enforcement tells us screen names and whatnot. There are a ton of social media accounts with his name on them. I know someone that I know very well found a ton of Instagram accounts for him. So it's very possible that people have already started putting crap out there that's not real. And so here he is, I think he stalked them. I honestly do. My feeling is that that's what we're going to find out, is that he stalked these girls. But my underlying question was, when did he decide or come up with the idea? Because I do believe this was pre-planned. I believe it's premeditated. He didn't just show up that night and for whatever reason and then decide to kill 4 people. I believe that he went there on a mission of what he thought was going to be the perfect crime. Sadly, he left his DNA. And as we all know, DNA today in today's world is really, really hard to get away from. It's really easy to leave DNA. You can leave DNA by sneezing. And forensics spent forever in that house going over and getting every bit of everything they could. So it's going to be really interesting when I see the photographs of him, even the ones from today when he appeared in court in Pennsylvania for his extradition hearing, which he did waive that. So he is going to be extradited. I imagine that we will see him within the next week or so back in Idaho. They're not going to tell anyone when they're bringing him or how they're bringing him because they want it to be safe, and they don't want anyone to get involved or in the way. So we're not going to know any of that until he actually appears in Idaho and in court. I think that he was aware of the girls before he ever went to Washington State. How or why he found them on social media, I don't know. But it just makes sense to me because it seems really odd that he would have been in Moscow, so close to their house, on the 21st of August, the very first day that he was in Pullman. So he is being charged, obviously, with all 4 murders, and also felony burglary. So he broke into the house as well, and it makes you wonder if he was possibly breaking into other houses as well. When did he become a burglar? One of the things when I was studying serial killers last year in depth for my serial killer stuff that I did on YouTube, one of the things I found is that a lot of them start out as burglarizing homes, and then they escalate from that to rape. And then from there, they go into murder. And so whenever you have a lot of burglaries in an area, that's something to be concerned about and to consider when you are looking at these killers. So it'll be interesting to see if he was involved in any other burglaries or could it be associated to them, not only in Pullman, but back home in Pennsylvania. What was he doing back home in Pennsylvania before this happened? If this is not the first time Bryan Kohberger has killed, what in the heck has gone on back in Pennsylvania? I believe that police have been onto him for a while. And I also think, police put out that they were looking for the white Hyundai Elantra that was seen in the vicinity of the house on the night of the murders. And we know that there was a white vehicle seen on the body cam footage of the officer that stopped some of the students across from the house. Well, they obviously found out he has a Hyundai Elantra. But one of the things that they did was they put his DNA through CODIS and nothing came up. So he does not have a background that he's ever been charged with anything that would put him in CODIS. And so then they used genetic genealogy is what the rumor is how they came about finding him. And they used the genetic genealogy and were able to pinpoint where he was and what family he came from. And then they decided, the FBI was like, well, we need to go ahead and let him go home for the holidays, back to Pennsylvania, and we're going to follow him. We're going to surveil him the whole time. And then we're going to do a DNA snatch and grab, basically, where they watch for him to leave some sort of cup or can or bottle or straw or something that they can grab and send to the lab to make sure that he is the person they believe he is. And that's what they did. It's exactly what they did. And they were able to confirm it. And once they confirmed it, Friday at 3:00 in the morning, they went to his parents' home, a SWAT team of FBI agents, and broke out windows and broke doors and recovered him safely. The question that I've had since this case began is, why did Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, who were at home and who slept through it and were unharmed completely, what happened that caused that? Was he frightened away by someone or something? What was the reason those two individuals were left alive in that home? So we know that from what law enforcement had told us is that the crime scene was extremely horrific. Lots of blood, lots of stabbing, and that 2 of the victims had defensive wounds. And I think that that's going to be really interesting to find out what sorry, what led to that. They've not found the murder weapon. They are actively looking for it. They took out a lot of evidence from his apartment in Pullman, Washington, as well as from his home in Pennsylvania. So one of the other things that has been brought up is that he went to the celebration of life that they had for the students on campus on December. When was this celebration of life? I can't remember. They had a celebration of life on campus for all 4 students. And there are pictures of someone that looks really, really close to him. It's very possible that he did attend that celebration of life. Hold on one second. So his parents and both of his sisters were in court today for the extradition hearing. And he was spotted, obviously, for the first time since he was arrested, stepping out of the prisoner transport van at the courthouse in advance of his highly anticipated extradition hearing. The eyes just get me. His eyes, there's video out there now of him being pulled over in Indiana, and he was pulled over twice in Indiana. And the first time he was pulled over was for traveling too close behind someone, and they gave him a warning violation. So the second time he was pulled over, we have the video of the body cam footage of the Indiana State Trooper who pulled him over. And so you can see his father and you can see him very clearly. And what I meant when I was talking about this earlier is I believe that the FBI, because they were monitoring him and they were following him across the country, and they knew he was going back to Pennsylvania, that they may very well have notified law enforcement of this, and that they may have just pulled him over just to check, but not to arrest him or to do anything. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the case, and if they were intentionally pulling them over to slow them down, or whatnot, so that they could get their teams in place. It'll be really interesting to see. There's a lot of things that have crossed my mind with that. Today when he was outside after he got out of the van, reporters were yelling at him, "Why did you do it? Are you going to go to Idaho?" And he remained stone-faced, didn't respond, didn't do anything. And he just looked haunted. When you look at the picture of him, and I'm going to put it up here on the screen. Hold on a second, you guys. Let me share my screen with you. When you look at this guy, I mean, he just is scary. I just don't know how else to say it. But yeah, this guy is so scary. He just looks, his eyes are huge, and I don't know how to explain it. They're huge, they're bug-eyed, and they look dark and empty, just empty when you look at his eyes. I told Maria when I was talking to her today, it reminds me of Adam Lanza, who is the guy who committed the Sandy Hook murders. And his eyes reminded the same to me, just pure evil. Yes, Thistle, exactly. Just pure evil. Pure evil. Oh yeah, I do believe that they were following him across country. They knew exactly where he was, when he was, and they I just really felt that way about it for sure. But so the his Pennsylvania classmates say that he was bright, he was awkward, he was bullied. But what I think is interesting is that it only took them 7 weeks to catch this guy. And even though he thought that he had one up on the police and that he got away with this, he really felt that he had gotten away with this. I'm not at all surprised that he is acting like he doesn't have a care in the world. I mean, he told his attorney in Pennsylvania that was helping him with the extradition that he was ready to be exonerated for this. They've got the wrong guy. And, these guys, they're not playing around. When they make these kinds of arrests in a quadruple homicide, they have plenty of evidence. And I just crazy, I mean, it's just beyond me. Like I said, a teacher in criminology, and I do think that they've known for a while, and they were just putting things together that they needed. They were waiting, like I said, for the DNA to come back, and all of those things. So, hold on a second here, because I think I have the video of it. Yeah, here it is. And we'll watch this. Hold on a second so everybody can see it. Yeah, I'll put this up here on the screen. This is the video from TMZ. They released the video of the car, the police with the car.
Chloe said, I want to give this another shot. You want me to be honest with you?
TMZ presents Lamar Odom, Sex, Drugs, and Kardashians. Watch it now on Hulu.
You can see up here, you guys, it was on December 15th of 2022, and it looks like it was at let's see, 3:50 in the afternoon when he was pulled over. And this is in Indiana.
talking about a tripper? We don't have any SUVs. It was a county guy. Was it like a black SUV? Okay, all right. You said you guys are following too closely? Today? Well, I'm not going to give you guys another ticket warning if you just got stopped. Just make sure you give yourself money. Okay? So it's all about how fast you're going, okay? So if you're going 10 miles an hour, you only need one car. If you're going, so speed limit, you're 7. You're going 7 miles an hour, you need 7 cars. Yeah. That's the easy way to explain it. Yeah. It's really easy. Yeah, it's a long haul. You guys scared of airplanes?
Did you guys hear what he asked him? He said, "Where are you guys headed?" And he said, they said Pennsylvania. And he said, "Well, that's a long haul. Are you guys scared of airplanes?" Oops. No, this was not before the murders. This was after the murders. This was on December 15th. So one of the things I will tell you about the car being filthy is he was driving across country through all kinds of weather. So a white car shows a ton of dirt really fast, and especially in the winter. So it doesn't surprise me that the car is dirty at all. And why do they go to the passenger side? Because that is for officer safety. They try not to go to the driver's side because they're already in danger. If you saw those huge semis flying by at God, whatever speed they were going, and he's standing there next to that car, that puts him in more of a chance of being hit. So they always go to the passenger side on the interstate. So yeah. I have no reason to worry about that. I feel for his family. I do want to say that, it's really, really difficult when things like this happen. And I just can't imagine being a sister or a mother or father and learning that my son is being suspected of murdering 4 people. I can't even fathom what that must feel like. And I don't think any of us can unless we've been put into that position. Oh, it's okay, Thistle. Sorry, I always forget that you guys are, not all of you are from America. I apologize for that. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's why they go to the passenger side, because they want to be away from the traffic. We have had so many police officers die in the line of duty, and I believe that they've had at least a couple in Indiana just in the past couple of months that have died from being hit. And I know in Illinois we have them too. So yeah, it's hard to get your car washed when it's freezing cold out there in the snow and slush, because everything freezes on it. So that's not a good idea. And yeah, exactly, Christine. You couldn't have said it better. The person they love is like a stranger to them. It's like, how could you possibly even think of doing something like that? That's not the brother I know. That's not the son I raised. That's not my best friend. Can you imagine his best friend? I mean, that's not the Bryan I know. I mean, yeah, just, incredible. And I do believe, like I said, I think the FBI had a really good handle on him as he was, and the U.S. Marshals. I imagine the U.S. Marshal Service was involved in this as well. And they were probably tracking him and helping the FBI in that regard. But it's really easy when these kinds of things happen to Monday morning quarterback, as they call it, because hindsight's 2020, guys. We know so much more. Oh, hey there, Gonzo. How are you, my dear? I miss you. Happy New Year. You are so welcome. Thank you for everything you do, my dear. And thank you for being out there on the front line. Thank you so much for that. So good to see you. Gonzo has been everywhere, guys. He's been everywhere. He's out there working hard on these cases. So he was up in Moscow doing his thing, and lots going on for him. So keep him in your thoughts and your prayers to keep him safe. But yeah, it's the families. We have to remember their families, because oh, I can't wait to chat with you, my dear. Much love to you too. Much love to you as well, my dear. But yeah, we need to keep his family in our prayers, because I can't even, like I said, imagine how that must feel to learn that about someone that you love. It's a 2,500-mile road trip, you guys, from Pullman, Washington to Pennsylvania, where he lives. And that's a long trip to make by car in the middle of winter. So his father flew to Spokane and then drove down to Pullman in a pre-planned trip ahead of the drive home for the Christmas break. So they had already pre-planned that he was going to be driving home Christmas break. They probably didn't want him to drive that far by himself. And so that's why his dad came down to make the drive with him. And I think it's interesting, like I said, that one of the reasons that makes me think that when they were pulled over in Indiana, it was on purpose, is because they weren't ticketed. So they were given warnings, and I just think that that's interesting to me. And his lawyer, when his lawyer did an interview and he talked about this road trip, and he's the one who said most of this. So they did have an Indiana State Police spokesman who came out and said he could find no evidence of any such encounters. So it was interesting that TMZ found the dash cam footage, and the ISP didn't even know. So they said that they had examined records. They did not find any record of any traffic stops or any interactions involving Bryan Kohberger, his father, or any Kohberger. Sergeant Glenn Fifield said on Monday. But I do believe that Hamilton County is where he was first stopped, And he said it was an SUV. And if you heard the officer, he said the state police don't have SUVs, so it would have been a county officer that pulled them over the first time in Hamilton County. So his classes ended on December 15th, so he left. He hightailed it out of there as soon as he was done teaching. And then on the 16th, at the University of Idaho is when their classes ended. And he got back to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania on December 17th. What police believe is that sometime between 3 and 4 a.m. on Saturday, November the 13th, Kohberger entered a 6-bedroom off-campus house and attacked 4 students in their sleep with a knife. The ambush ended up killing Madison, Kaylee, 21-year-old best friends, as well as their housemate, Xana, and her boyfriend, Ethan. 2 other young women on the home's bottom level were left alone, according to police. Kohberger has a master's degree from DeSales University in criminal justice and was studying at Washington State University's Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology. Pennsylvania police arrested him on Friday after the Idaho authorities charged him with 4 counts of first-degree murder and a felony charge of burglary for allegedly entering the residence with the intent to commit murder. So they do believe that he went there to kill. He didn't go there for any other reason. In Washington, investigators searched his apartment for hours on the very same day on Friday, and they removed boxes and bags of evidence, as well as a desktop computer. And what was weird is on Friday, when this was happening, I was watching live coverage from Moscow on YouTube, where they had set up the company that was going to come in and do all the cleaning of the house in Moscow, and they were setting that all up, and that got pulled. As soon as they made the arrest, they asked that company to leave. They did not finish. They're not cleaning up that house right now. So I thought that was really, really interesting as well. Hey, Shelby, how are you, my dear? That's true. I have absolutely no idea what you did today, even though we talked for an hour. Love you, my dear. So glad to see you here. So he's headed back to Idaho. As soon as he gets back into Idaho, he will go into court. He will be read his charging document and what the charges against him are, and then they will read the affidavit for probable cause, and they will let him know what they have against him, the evidence that they have against him, and in the probable cause document. And then that will be released to the public. They have already said that as soon as that's been read to him, it'll be released to the public. And his attorney in Pennsylvania said that Kohberger firmly believes that he will be exonerated for these crimes. John Kelly, a criminal profiler and psychotherapist who's interviewed multiple serial killers, told Fox News Digital on Monday that if Kohberger did not commit the crimes, he made a series of key errors if he did commit the crimes, especially for someone with an education focused on criminology. And I could not expound on that enough. That is what Maria and I talked about on the phone today, about how this guy is supposedly so intelligent, and all the things that he made, all the mistakes that he made that led to his arrest. So yeah, it's Kelly went on to say that flight can be a sign of guilt. And but other mistakes include the indoor crime scene, virtually impossible to clean up, attacking so many people at once with a knife, and allegedly believing he could avoid leaving behind any evidence. You know, those are just some of the things that he thought that he did wrong. I thought bringing your own car to the scene of the crime is risky because someone may see it, which we know happened. Just all kinds, like I said, there was just all kinds of things. Bringing his phone was pinged in the area of the murders, just things like that. Those are just things that you would think he would know. But anyway, I think it's really interesting how John Kelly talked about it, and kudos to him. Much respect for John. His YouTube channel is fantastic. If you have not had a chance to watch him, please go and do so, because he has great insight into these killers. He's interviewed a lot of them. One of the other things that I wanted to bring up was, all the photos that were going around about the girls when they were at the local bar, the Corner Club in Moscow, where Kaylee and Madison spent several hours before they were murdered. All of the people on YouTube who were creating videos and content talking about these people as if they were murderers. And, I was floored by it. I still am floored by it. And it's like I said, it was one of the reasons why I didn't jump on the bandwagon to cover the case. Maria says, more emotional offender than BTK and Bundy, it seems, would have to be thinking irrationally and acting too quickly for such an intelligent person to get caught so soon. Wow. Yeah. And I agree with that too. I definitely do. So one of the things I also wanted to talk about tonight before we wrap it up is there was an article that appeared from U.S. News, and it's how the internet sleuthing in unsolved University of Idaho slayings can be extremely dangerous. And I found this absolutely compelling. I know that, these cases fascinate us, and I understand why. We're human. And I get the fascination, but we really need to be careful. Facebook groups, Reddit forums, TikTok posts, they're all adding to the intrigue surrounding the deaths of 4 college students. But experts say they likely will not help crack the case. As authorities continue to release conflicting statements on the killings of 4 University of Idaho students, mounting questions around the case have fueled frustration towards police and given rise to amateur detectives determined to crack it. Mourners gathered at the University of Idaho for a vigil on Wednesday, the same day the Moscow Police Department described a statement from the Latah County Prosecutor's Office that one or more of the occupants were undoubtedly targeted, had been a miscommunication. The department had also described the homicides as a targeted attack following the incident. With limited details on the case available to the public, many have taken it upon themselves to search for answers. The hundreds of tips and calls provided to local, state, and federal investigators as a result of cyber sleuthing can help both to pinpoint plausible leads and to rule out potential suspects. But former FBI agents and law enforcement experts say they more often than not are a hindrance to an investigation. They divert resources and attention and can even be harmful by ensnaring innocent people. With all types of training and all of the resources to help solve just about any type of crime have at their fingertips, it's kind of hard to believe that anyone just banging around the internet is going to be able to solve the crime that they couldn't. Pete Yachmetz, a retired FBI special agent in Florida with 30 years at the agency, said, "I just don't fathom it." But the case of Gabby Petito, a 22-year-old New York native who went missing last year as she documented her cross-country travels on social media with her fiancé, has become a blueprint of sorts for people fascinated by missing persons and unsolved crimes. Intrigue surrounding Petito's disappearance exploded on social media, with a dedicated hashtag racking up more than 1 billion views on TikTok posts as users theorized what happened to her. Petito's body was ultimately discovered in a Wyoming forest. A manhunt ensued for her fiancé, Bryan Laundrie, whose skeletal remains were found a month later in Florida. Now the homicide in Moscow, Idaho, of the 4 University of Idaho students' friends, Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Conclaves, and Xana Kernodle, and Kernodle's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, has become a fresh mystery for internet sleuths to speculate over. The 3 female students lived in the home together with 2 other roommates, one of whose cell phone was used to call 911 just before noon on November 13th. Authorities at the scene said they found the 4 victims stabbed multiple times, seemingly with an edged weapon like a large knife. No weapon has been found. One private Facebook group about the homicides now has more than 32,700 members, in which users are dissecting past social media posts the friends made before their deaths, piece together their interactions with others on their Instagram, Facebook, and Venmo accounts, and even named people who they believe could be suspects or say police should interview. A forum on Reddit has more than 27,000 members, with users posing theories and analyzing statements released by law enforcement and family members of the victims. And on TikTok, posts with the hashtag Idaho Murders have more than 94.2 million views, with users questioning if a serial killer is behind the deaths or if the homicides are linked to other similar cases of unsolved stabbings in the region. Investigators have said the killings don't appear connected to other slayings. Initially, Moscow police told the local community there was no imminent danger and that the deaths appeared to be part of an isolated, targeted attack. But in the following days, officials walked that back, that they cannot say there is no threat to the community, and said Wednesday it is not known if the residence where the bodies were found or its occupants were specifically targeted. The conflicting statements have concerned students, while the conjecture based on what people have found through internet searches and social media has apparently vexed Moscow police, who said Sunday that they received nearly 500 digital media tips to an FBI page dedicated to the case. There is speculation without factual backing, stoking community fears and spreading false facts. The department said in a news release, the city's website about the case also includes a rumor control section seeking to tamp down unvetted information. The Idaho State Police, which is handling inquiries about this case, did not return multiple requests for comment on this story. Adam Scott Want, an assistant professor and vice chair for technology at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, said it's no coincidence that the homicide case of 4 Idaho college students is gaining traction on platforms like YouTube and TikTok, which he attributes to advanced algorithms that are feeding these types of posts to users. Gabby Petito went viral because there's no doubt that TikTok was pushing that hashtag. But for every case like Petito's, in which internet sleuthing can be advantageous, a YouTube video helped to establish a possible crime scene and police to focus their search efforts. There are far more in which armchair investigators are only adding to the noise. In addition, crowdsourced investigations can ruin lives. He added, as with what happened when users on Reddit, Twitter, and other social media platforms incorrectly identified the suspects in the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing based on photos and videos. It's extremely dangerous, Want said. There's a wild, wild west aspect to all of this. Jeremy Reagan, a University of Idaho law student who lives near the crime scene in Moscow, is all too familiar with being wrongly named. An interview he gave to the media in which internet users said he looked suspicious went viral and led to some to believe he was involved in the students' deaths. The fact that I had a nervous smile on my face, people clung to that. Oh, he's smiling. He's proud of what he did, Reagan said. But I wasn't asking to be interviewed by a reporter. She literally stopped me while I was taking out the garbage, and I had nothing to hide, so I spoke with her. Police came to interview him this week, he said, but he made clear that he's actually the victim of online harassment and unfounded rumors in which people went through his old social media posts to try and prove a connection between him and the 4 murdered students. He recently began answering questions on Reddit in order to dispel the accusations. After I posted my side of things, a lot of people have been reaching out and saying, hey, I didn't think it was you, or hey, originally I did think it was you, and after reading through your post, I realized it's not. He added that he understands people's curiosities and wanting to be the one who unlocks a mystery, but it shouldn't come with this kind of a cost. Sometimes it can help, but I think a lot of the time what people end up finding or reporting to police just jams up the investigation. It's a waste of their time and a waste of their resources. And I thought that was an excellent, excellent story, you guys. And I mean, seriously, we really need to take heed on that when we are looking for content and things to watch, when we're looking for things about cases that we want to follow. So, you know, we all, like I said, we all have that curiosity for mystery and wanting to see things solved and all the questions that come up. And that's why we're here. That's why people follow true crime. So, you know, it's just what it is. But, yeah, as SD, I will link that. I'll link that down below in my description on my YouTube channel. So, but yeah, you guys, those are just some of the things that I wanted to bring up. I'm more than, thrilled that they actually got the guy. Obviously he's innocent until proven guilty, but everything that I can see, this guy is their guy. I mean, I will be interested to see what the charging affidavit and the probable cause affidavit say. And he's got a long road to hoe if everything that they say they have is true, because DNA doesn't lie, and that we know. So if they can place him in that house, and he's got to be able to explain away his DNA and why it was there. I just wish, Island, that more people would, sorry guys, that more people would take time to not put people's names out there. That's what bothers me. It's the innocence of putting people's names and attaching them as POIs or persons of interest when we have no way of knowing that. We don't have all the evidence. We have no way of knowing that. And you can literally ruin someone's life by doing that on social media, because it goes everywhere. And once it's on social media, you can't get it off. And nobody would want it to happen to them. That's just my point, it's good to talk about the case and discuss it in a general tone, and talk about the perpetrator and what he may or may not be, or what he may or may not have done. But to actually come out and start saying, Kaylee's ex-boyfriend is absolutely the guy who did this crime, it's just, yeah, exactly. Don't be a Nancy Grace. Love you. Thanks. I'm glad the internet got fixed. So, for sure, John, they jump onto the bandwagon of these cases, just like anyone else, because it gets readership and it gets people watching. But what I'm going to say to that is, then, like we said, here we have 4 murdered young people, which is horrific. We all know that. But we have 4 murdered children in Florida, 6 years, guys, going now on 7. And they're still not solved. And where's the outcry on social media for that? Where is the 37,000 members in Facebook, on a Facebook group for Flora? Where is the outcry, you guys? It's that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I try to get people to look at, that bothers me and upsets me every single day. There's got to be a reason. It's oh yeah, I know. I know. I agree with you. I agree 100%. That's hilarious, Maria. That's absolutely hilarious. You should make a TikTok video and post that. That would be great. But I do know the reason, Mindy. I do. But all I'm saying is those are the things to me that are just ridiculous. Not only with mainstream media, but social media as well. And we're all out there, doing our thing, and I'm not here to, to tell anybody how to run their channels or run their groups or whatever. I try to stay in my lane and do my thing. But I'm here to tell you, if you're going to bring a Robert Lindsay onto your channel, I am going to call you out. I am going to say that is crap, and you should never do that. If you're going to do some horrific things to families, I'm going to call it out. I will not be the person that remains silent and pretends like it's okay, because by remaining silent, all you're doing is letting it go by with nothing, and nothing's going to change. And what I wanted to end with tonight was about law enforcement. So, Island, thank you so much for bringing law enforcement, because I cannot get over how quickly they found this guy. I don't want them, John, interested in Flora. Heck no, please no. I do not want them. I would rather see Flora picked up by somebody else, like one of the other HLN shows that showcase crimes, things like that. I would rather see Flora picked up and done that way than have Ashley Banfield or Nancy Grace do anything about it. So I think that law enforcement did a great job. Obviously, they always make mistakes. They're human, but I understand the family's frustration of not knowing and the contradiction in statements, but I'm guaranteeing you that a lot of that is because they don't want the perpetrator to know what they're doing. That's what they're supposed to do, is not let the person who committed the crime know what they, know where they're at and know what they're doing. Thanks, John. Thank you, John. So, there's kids that go missing every single day. I just have to get on my Twitter feed and they're there, and their cases are not out there in the news media, not nationally. They may be in their cities, they may be on their, and maybe possibly even in their state, but it's still not enough. And I know Steve with True Crime Web will tell you it's not enough because of everything that he and Mrs. Steve are doing with Cyclops and trying to get all the missing children entered into a database state by state, so we can go find their cases quickly and easily to cover and have something that consistently is there that we have to access, because it's so hard to find them. And they don't. Yeah, law enforcement doesn't owe us anything. They don't. And I think sorry, John. Lisa, I'm not sure what you mean. That I hold back information rather than rampant speculation. I don't hold back information. I just try to tell everyone to vet your information. Don't put it out there unless you know it's fact. That's all. That's just how I feel. That's how I want my channel ran. That's probably why I'm a postage stamp of a channel compared to somebody who's blowing up at 100,000 subscribers. Okay, Lisa, thank you. Thank you. Because I didn't know what you meant. I wasn't sure what you meant, but thank you. I try very hard to not be one of those. And trust me, I speculate, you guys. I speculate. I'm not any different than you guys are. I just don't speculate to the point where I put it out all over social media and put out all this stuff, because I just don't think it's fair that I do that. And Maria's right. Robert Lindsay's rhetoric in the wrong hands leads to things like Delphi in Idaho and mass shootings at schools, churches, synagogues, and gay bars. The man is a hate monger. To say it to the best, he's a pedophile. He is seriously sick. And that man does not need a platform ever, in my opinion. I wouldn't give him one. Yes, we have free speech in this country, and I absolutely believe in free speech. But those kind of people, let them go find their own channels and put them. I don't think any of us should be giving them the time of day. So that's just me. I like that, John. The POI apology tour should start today. Yeah, let's make it a New Year's resolution, that we're real careful going forward about throwing people under the bus. That's all I'm saying, because it can ruin people's lives. But I hope you guys learned something today. I do believe that we're going to find out, obviously, a lot more once we get into the affidavit for Bryan. I think we're going to learn what led police to him, and what they think may or may not be what was on the radar with him. Was this a stalking situation where he was targeting all three of the girls? I think it's very, very possible. Excuse me. I'm so happy that you all are here tonight. For those of you who are not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel and make sure you hit the bell so that you get notified of all of my future live streams. As I told you, or my videos, I will be going live again on Thursday night. And my guests on Thursday night will be Skip and Steve from True Crime Web. The discussion will all be about Delphi. Skip has not commented at all publicly about Delphi and the arrest of Richard Allen. So I think it's going to be really interesting to get his take on this and his point of view. And we all love when Steve is here and we can just ask him all sorts of law enforcement questions. And so I'm literally looking forward to having him on Thursday. Do you guys have any questions, or is there anything that you guys wanted to say or ask or mention that I didn't cover, or a question that you may have had, or something that you said that I may have missed along the way? Because I did do a lot of talking tonight. I just want to make sure. Oh, Lisa, we did before Christmas, but we don't today. No, it was 50 degrees here today. We're supposed to be, I think the weather for the next week is supposed to be in the 50s and the 40s, which is unheard of for January. So no kidding, Daisy. No kidding. Although, he was bad enough. I can see why people were looking at him. It's not like he was just some guy. He had his own, horribleness that he had committed. But yeah, whenever you get this kind of warm weather in the middle of, the winter or whatever, you're going to have tornadoes around here. But yeah, we didn't have bad weather. I hope everybody does stay safe out there. And you all have a good evening. I will see you guys all on Thursday night. And make sure that you are being kind, because it doesn't take anything to be kind. And as you go forward in this year, stop and think about the things that you say to others and how it might impact them. Because to me, that's so important. So many people are suffering right now. So many people are hurting. And we just went through a really hard time for people over the holidays. People who are lonely, people who are depressed, people who are missing loved ones that they don't have anymore, all of that. And so it's important to always remember that going forward, and remember that you don't know what the next person is going through. So just don't assume. Good night, everybody, and have a great rest of your night. And I will see you on Thursday.